The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms. Hello, and welcome to another podcast episode of the Oracle of Luna. Today, we have the wonderful Camilla Blossom. Camilla is an earth alchemist, soul midwife, vibrational energy healer, flower essence educator, and the founder of Earth School. Welcome, Camilla.
Thank you. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to this.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on our show. And just in time for the summer solstice, we want to I want to jump right in and delve into all that you do. So I'm just going to start right now. So Camilla, how did your deep love of nature and the fairy and spiritual realms come about?
Yeah, I in my childhood, I grew up in Rochester, New York. We went up to the Adirondacks every summer, and I just fell in love with being in the forest. And even as a little tyke, would be in the forest by myself or swimming in the lake, and that kind of opened me to the power of nature. But then an interesting thing happened as an adult. I didn't really get this until like more recently, but I realized that all these different like meetings with these elementals were happening in my life. So every couple of years I was like connecting with a different one, and they were sort of opening to that element, and then also to the work that I would be doing, like putting it to use. For example, a big start was I was called by the fairies to create flower essences in the Columbia River Gorge. And so I heard this voice from them to make flower essences. And so that kind of opened this whole journey of connecting with the flowers and the plants and the spirits, and also the ancestors of land. Yeah.
Did you go to college, or did you study, botany or?
Not really. A lot of it wasn't through. I did go to college, but I didn't, it wasn't really related. I just think it was a natural. I'm an empath, a sensitive. I just have I always felt more comfortable being in nature. And then, yeah. So the fairies were the first to call, and then a mermaid showed up, and they asked, this mermaid, Britta, asked me to work with water to help people understand that she's real. And then people would care for the water if they knew the mermaids were real.
Wow. That's interesting. I'm just curious, like, how do you engage with the fairy and the she and the nature spirits and mermaids? I mean, are you connecting with them visually, or is it vibrationally?
It tends to be kind of a variety of ways. As I said, I'm very empathic. So a lot of things come through just feelings, like I'll feel energy, feel changes. And then as I just spent time opening to nature and kind of listening more, being open my perception. Yeah, it's like different. Sometimes there'd be like inner vision, sometimes there'd be an outer, more physical vision. Sometimes it was kind of audible hearing, like channeling through.
Yeah.
So I think we all have, yeah, these abilities, and it's sort of different amounts of it for each person. So for me, a lot of it was starting with the feelings. And then I think a big piece too was I kind of learned how to do shamanic journeying and working with my
Yeah.
animal guide. And that was kind of a way to learn about how to meditate and move into kind of that altered state,
Right.
which right moves you into kind of nature's, the language of nature, which is all about feeling. And so I'd have all these experiences, kind of mystical experiences going inward. Um, and then I realized like I wasn't totally believing them, that it was true. And so finally, I just kind of got so fed up. I was like, you know what? It's all real. It's all true. My imagination, everything I'm perceiving and doing and experiencing, it's all true. And as soon as I kind of surrendered to that, it like opened up this kind of whole world of nature and the subtle realms and the fairies, and just, yeah, they're real to me.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a lot of time in nature and, many years in the Pacific Northwest forests, and um, they are real.
Mm-hmm.
But you really, I'm just saying this from my personal experience, you have to be very quiet in yourself to
Mm-hmm.
listen to nature and listen and hear how it's speaking to you. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, I do. But what's interesting too, I've noticed that for some people, myself included, that I kind of call this like seamless communication. It's sort of the word I just made up to imply, because sometimes people are so connected, they don't even know it. And I felt like I was kind of that person. So you may be like very fairy like, or very gnome like, or very mermaid like, or a combination. And you're like naturally connected because you are that. But
Mm,
sometimes it's hard to relate because you are it, it's not outside you.
yeah.
So there's also that, right? So I think recognizing, yeah, sometimes it's easier to communicate and imagine things outside of you, like, oh, this tree's over here. Like we can see how we can connect, but also to trust, like sometimes it's very embodied and it's just how you're feeling as an empath. That's the communication. And that's like the language of nature, right? Through the heart, as I said. So tuning into how you feel, in your own body, in your own
Yeah.
heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so who would you say has influenced you on your journey?
Um, well, primarily the invisible world, of
Yeah.
course. So a lot of mermaids and dragons and fairies. In the human realms, I've had some teachers of the 13 indigenous grandmothers, especially Maria
Oh,
Lisi from the Amazon, and um, Florida Mayo. Marshall Golden Eagle Jack, a Native American elder, has been a journeyed with him, and he taught me a lot about working with land and the ancestors. And it's interesting to kind of compare to, like, I'm more of the Celtic energy worker with
right.
the different realms, right? And he
Sure.
comes from more the Native American little people and how he saw. So it was interesting also to explore
Yeah.
the different ways like
Oh,
we
yeah.
perceive and our traditions, how they're different. So
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, every culture, every society has their form of fairy. Like, the Hawaiians have the menehune.
yeah, exactly.
There's just, we I want to say, Northern Europeans have an affinity to the Celtic notion, or even like the Victorian notion of what a fairy looks like and what they do, and they, flutter around on little wings and kind of Tinkerbellish. But it's really, there's many forms. I wanted to ask you about that. Like,
Yeah.
what do they look like to you? I mean, do you visualize
Yeah.
fairy, or is it just really open to total
Hmm.
interpretation?
Yeah, it's interesting because even going around making, like, I've made hundreds of different flower essences. So tuning in and trees and, places, like seeing and perceiving all these different kinds of beings. And you're right, like there is that kind of Victorian notion of the Tinkerbell type, fluttery, sweet fairy. And, sometimes I'll see that for a flower, but I see everything. I see some kind of more Davic, angelic looking beings that are very large. I see very indigenous, like for the camas. That's very sacred to the camas, to the native indigenous people, the camas
Uh-huh.
bulbs. And so that spirit and willow, I saw very indigenous, like a Native American spirit. I've seen like laughing Buddha spirits for some of them.
Hmm.
Um, so I think some of it is like we have these lenses of interpretation, right? Of how we
Yeah.
perceive. And so to recognize, like, I'm just interpreting all these beings in the way that they come through me. And so I think for everyone, we have these lenses of um, our own traditions and then what we've learned along the way and what resonates. So they can really appear in all different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
for some too, like when I started, it was much more just the overall spirit of nature, that sense.
Yes.
Right. And there's not like separate beings that you relate to, but and I think the Fairy Congress was another group of people that was a strong influence going to that event.
Oh, tell us
Um,
about that.
Yeah, it's actually coming up in July. It's outside of Salem, Oregon at this point, but they've been going for 20 years, and it's a whole community that really pretty dedicated people to the fairy realms, and not just, the costumes and the music and that kind of festival, but really deep work, more, the shamanic work with the different realms, the planetary light work, the, how you work with land. Like there's so many really powerful ways to work. And to me, it's really multidimensional. The fairies are like, we're not just the nature spirits, like we're multidimensional like humans are, and we're ascending with the planet. And so I think there's a whole like almost misunderstanding or not full range
Right.
of awareness about really who fairies are and what
Yeah.
they
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's so much more to research and explore and
yeah
you know,
yeah
get to
yeah
know.
and it can encompass, right, that word can encompass so many, like the elementals, like the dragons and um the gnomes and the sylphs and mermaids, and there's all these different kind of elements within that, the trees and of course
Yeah.
plants.
Well, when
So,
I have done ritual, there's outdoors for my moon circle, Circle of Luna. It's been very. We pay close attention to the wind, the ground, the earth beneath our
yeah,
feet, the moon overhead, obviously, and any animal sounds. And it's
yeah.
interesting. There's been a lot of owls and bats and little bunnies hopping around, and um, all of those. You get to really tune in and pay attention, and that's sometimes hard to do when you're in thinking mind and stressed and working and day to day. But I would say, I mean, and you can expand on this as much as you want, but there's a definite world, unseen world that we're not really in tune with.
Yeah. 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 I love that you share that too, because starting with those physical um, sightings, right? Like a lot of times I know you've had that. You do ceremony or you're doing something and oh my God, there's a hummingbird right there. That happened yesterday. I was doing a ceremony for womb healing for women and we were opening to the east and there's a hummingbird there
Oh,
and for our intention. And so, yeah, to really see those physical things as signs from spirit and from the unseen world and the seen world, and how that plays with each other and can kind of bring forward those messages, those the weavings of how to return more to the rhythms and cycles of nature. So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your land healing ceremonies. I know
Yeah.
that's on your website, but what kind of land needs this healing? And then what after the
Mhm.
ceremony? What does the earth feel like afterwards?
Yeah. I've been doing them for some time, and some of them have been probably more of like what you've been doing, where they're working with a group of people doing it for an area or a time of year. There's also when there's a call to work in a certain place, maybe someone needs that for their land, or I get called there. And then there's also kind of the planetary light work I do on sort of a more meditative grid work, that kind of thing level. But
Hmm.
for the land alchemy, just to give an example, I was at someone's house in Portland, and she um, just felt like there's a lot of funky energy in a part of her house and just couldn't seem to clear it. And so when I got in that neighborhood, like as soon as I started entering the neighborhood, it's like, yeah, I could feel, like, it's that empath thing. I could feel the
Mm.
land around there just didn't feel that good. And getting to her house, like, okay, I can definitely see there's something in this area. So even though you're working in one place, you know, it can affect the whole area. Um, so we're working with it and realizing that there's a lot of like unwinding of some attachments and different sort of energetic work, a lot of kind of work with what I call historic land imprints. So,
Oh,
energies that get imprinted from the history there.
I see. Like
Yeah, unwinding.
development and construction and or toxic dumping.
Yeah, like, or just violence or abuse, things that people have
Oh,
done, or emotions.
I see.
And so it ended up like this unwinding. Also, what happens, like, there's a lot of portals on the earth, and they can easily become congested if there's no one really caring for them, which, a lot of development has sort of stirred up Gaia all over, right? So a lot of land really needs restoration, awakening, honoring again. So a lot of it's like honoring and bringing love back and
Yeah.
connecting with the spirits again. And then we did a lot of like clearing and unwinding, and then we're able to kind of clear out this portal, and then this beautiful energy just started coursing through, and it turned out to be like a water portal, and she's like a water keeper kind of person. So it's like, oh my God, of course you live on a place that has this water portal. We just needed to cleanse it and have you know about it. And it sounds like your son has a connection to it,
Hmm.
her little boy, and to work with crystals with it. And so it was pretty dramatic. I mean, that was a very powerful experience of experience like really funky energy in this one place of the house. And then once we were finished, it just felt like it was blissful. And we both felt it. So it wasn't just like, me. It was like, oh my gosh, okay, something wanted to happen.
It sounds like a
Um,
rebalancing of energy.
Yeah, right. It's sort of like if you went to a healer and did chakra balancing and aura clearing and, healing work. Like that's how I'm working with the land too. Like I'm a energy healer,
Yeah.
but then I extend that, right? And do that for places and portals, and
Hmm.
yeah. So it's really beautiful work.
Yes. Yeah, we love that. And also, you produce flower essences from flowers from the River Gorge in that's near Portland, right near
Yeah.
Hood River, I want to say,
Mhm.
Mount
Yeah.
Hood area.
I-
Okay. Yeah.
mhm.
So tell us a little bit about how you harvest these wildflowers and distill their essences and
Mhm.
how they create healing properties for us. And, why does the Columbia Gorge have so much sacred energy, do you think?
Yeah, it was back in 2000 that those fairies called me and said, make them. And so that's when I started doing that. And The
Did you live,
land,
did you live there at the time?
yeah, I lived
Okay.
in Hood River for over 30 years, and so I
Oh,
was
wow.
really in that place.
Oh,
So that's like right at the Columbia River. So you have Washington on
yeah.
one side and Oregon on the other. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there
And the
too.
mountains. So there's a huge part of it's like there's a huge amount of different kinds of plants because the elevation from sea level up to 12,000 feet for the mountains.
Hmm.
And then also the rainforest in the Cascades all the way out to desert, further out to the Dalles and
Yeah.
out. So there's a huge range of terrain, but also like geologically,
Yeah.
the way that the gorge is formed is really interesting. They used to think it was like a slow thing, because there's like high cliffs on either side and then
Yeah.
a big
It's
river goes
dramatic.
through, right? Yeah, it's very dramatic. Well, what really happened was these ice dams in like Montana and Idaho like broke through and like went crashing through and taking boulders and like really quickly in terms of earth change, right? It came blasting through and created this gorge. And so to me, there was always this message like for learning the wildflowers that grow there, they wanted to teach us about how to survive during difficult times. Like these flowers can last during cold and wind and elements and, everything. And they're just exquisite and beautiful. And there's orchids and lilies and just a
Mm.
huge amount of different flowers.
Oh, wow.
And so the gorge is this powerful land that's, and also been a very sacred gathering place for indigenous tribes for
Yeah, I want to
eons,
acknowledge the
right?
yeah, I want to acknowledge the indigenous people. Do you know which tribes?
There's many where I live now. I'm in Vancouver, Washington. It's the Cowlitz, the Yakima, um, and the Chinook.
Yeah.
And then there's, yeah, the Klickitat, the Warm Springs,
Yeah.
the Washoe, the Paiute. There's many tribes. So yeah, whenever I do anything, I always like honor those indigenous
Yes.
spirits because they always join me. Like everything I've done for the last 20 years, if I go out and make an essence, if I'm doing ceremony, if I'm doing healing, like anything with the land, like I always acknowledge, but they always want to come too, which is really cool. Like you just can feel and see these indigenous spirits come in and go, oh yeah, we know what you're up to. We want to join you and help.
Yeah. They were the original caretakers.
Exactly. And so
So,
they see when we do that and acknowledge them
oh,
wherever we are, right? So that's a
yeah.
really beautiful practice.
That's wonderful that you do that. And you also wrote a book, Sacred Spirit of
Yeah.
Gorge, Columbia River Gorge Flower Essences and Essences of Place.
Yeah. So I did, that's all about 44 of the flower essences. I do have a deck of cards too with the photographs. And so I do make essences for people and have formulas on
Hmm.
my shop. And
That's
yeah, so I've been
wonderful.
working with them and also working with them a lot with land now. So you can use them as medicine, vibrational medicine for land and for water
Oh,
and for
beautiful.
spirits even.
Great. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that how that you can
Yeah.
integrate that with
Oh, integrate.
healing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so all these different things I've been doing, like they didn't all feel like they feel like all these different things, but then now like everything's integrating. So
Yes.
it's really wonderful. I think other people are feeling that too, like how, oh yeah, that's why I was doing all these things. And now, right? It makes
Right.
sense.
And tell us really quickly, what is you're the director or founder of Earth School. What is Earth School?
Yeah, I'm actually I decided to shift from calling my work then Earth School and just using my name, Camilla Blossom. For
Okay.
some reason, the having a school like was a big dream of mine, but then just this year, like all these shifts are happening with Gaia and the Earth, and so for some reason, it was like, no, like just do your thing, and you don't need to call it a school or an Earth School.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I am just doing a lot of different things from mentoring, doing courses and events online and in person. I
Hmm.
have a Patreon membership.
Right. And workshops, I'm sure you
Yeah,
have.
workshops. And I'm got a book coming up too that's called Sacred Spirits of Gaia. I do have a deck, an oracle deck out already, but the book is being finished up, and it's like my story of how I got into all this and how,
Oh, we would love
yeah,
to
so there's
have
a lot of
that.
stuff we're talking about,
Yes.
like a lot of fun stories. But it also is like, let's say you want to connect more with the fairy queen or the gnomes, like I'm also putting in there ways you can connect and co-create with them for
Oh,
yourself. And so the book and the
yeah.
cards are kind of not just like my story, although that can be inspiration, but that it's a way for people to learn how to connect with their land and with the earth and the waters
Oh,
and the
wonderful.
spirits themselves. So
That's
that's,
excellent.
yeah,
Excellent. Oh, I love that. And yeah, it's a way of getting people involved and to
exactly.
connect to nature. I love that.
Yeah.
So great.
Because the motto for all the work I do kind of came to me. I was out in Hood River going across the Indian Creek, is what it's called. And I heard this voice, and it said, "We are not here to heal the earth. We are here to heal our relationship with Mother Earth."
Mm,
And ever since then, it just feels like that's more and more my mission, to
yes.
live that life and be
Yeah.
it, and then just share the joy of that and what others can do as well if they want to be
Yeah.
part of that community. Yeah.
And that's just so important now, more now than ever,
Yeah, it
to
really
really
is.
connect with the earth and heal
Mhm.
the relationship of
Yeah,
not domination, but actually,
exactly.
harmonizing and,
Right. Yeah.
supporting and healing it so that we can live on it on with Mother Gaia. And wow, well, I am so honored to have spoken with you. And now, what are some of your upcoming plans for the future? You touched on Fairy Congress,
Yeah, I'm going to be
Herbal Fair.
presenting at that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'm kind of the Patreon is a new community. And then the book, I'm hoping next month or two.
And when is where could we buy the book when it comes out?
Oh, yeah. CamillaBlossom.com is really how to find out about all my stuff.
Okay.
And you can sign up for the newsletter there too, which I let people know of events and books and that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
also work a lot with the grandmothers. I was saying, them as my teachers.
Yes.
Well, the spirit
Grandmothers.
grandmothers. Yeah, it's like the ancient wisdom that's feminine, the sacred
Yes.
feminine, and our
Yes.
wisdom, right?
We're all about that here in the
Yeah, I
Goddess podcast.
figured. Exactly. So I do an online lodge. Sometimes I do live ones, but I call it a grandmother lodge, and we work with different spirit grandmothers and different kind of empowerment and inner wisdom. It's really a beautiful circle of women and men sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of what
Fantastic.
I'm up to, kind of a lot of different threads, and just give people opportunities to do, smaller things. Or if I also mentor people. I'm going to be doing some new courses in the fall. Like last year, I did a Land Alchemy training, kind of more advanced training for
Yeah.
people that want to work with land. So I'm kind of dreaming that in. I feel like solstice is like my dreaming time, and like the
Yes.
bees are coming in to dream in with
Yeah.
us right now, and the St. John's wort and those, solstice energies. I know you're totally tuned into that. So I feel like there's a really powerful energy right now. So I'm excited we did this.
Yes.
We chatted now,
Yeah.
right?
I'm an empath myself, and I'm
Mhm.
have a lot of earth energy connections, and I'm actually here in Las Vegas now, and it's warm, it's sunny.
Hmm.
We have all kinds of birds and hummingbirds and dragonflies in our pool area, and the flowers are just so gorgeous here. But I spent many years in Seattle area, so, and also in Portland, and I know what it's like, and it just smells different, and it just makes you feel different and freer. It's a lightness that boy, it's almost dramatic.
Yeah, right. This time of year when everything's waking up, it's like a good support for us to wake up to as all these shifts go on, the hardship, like you're saying, like really turning to nature and being in that center that nature provides.
Oh yeah, and grounding yourself and actually getting out of your thinking mind is just
Yeah.
powerful in itself. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, you too.
This has been wonderful. I love what you do, and
Thank you.
we all know that CamillaBlossom.com is the place to go and to get in touch with you. So I urge everybody, all my listeners, to check out Camilla's website. And is there any other place they can connect with you?
Well, I do have a lot of videos on YouTube if you like to watch things, and I am on, Instagram and the different things, but just sort of depends on what platform you can check out. But
all right. So many ways to connect.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. Well, blessed be,
Well,
and
thank you. Happy solstice, Bridget.
happy summer solstice. And I look forward to your new book
Thank you.
hearing more about all the wonderful things that you do with Mother Gaia and the fairy folk and all the elementals and spiritual realms.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Blessings to you too.
Blessings. All right. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please consider supporting my podcast via PayPal on my PayPal.me/Oracle of Luna podcast. The link is in the show notes. And also feel free to share the magic of my podcast with others. Thank you, and blessed be.